Now, continuing our look back at the World Cup last week, and we've got 2 questions of the week that we've been asking you on Twitter. We're going to give you our thoughts now. The first of them is, who is your World Cup MVP?
Well, we're not just going to look back to last week. We're going to also go back to the last question, because I realized right after I said it, I was thinking of last year's prize money. I said £40,000 to the runner-ups. Obviously, that's shared between the team. That was last year's. This year was up to $50,000. So maybe a little bit more to take out of the weekend for Team Scotland. As far as who's the MVP of the weekend, the options on the poll for those who haven't gone, and if you haven't, as of the time of recording, there's still 5 days left. It'll run through through this upcoming Sunday. Johnny Clayton, Gary Anderson, Oscar Lukisiak, and Mac Elkin. Mac Elkin, of course, the manager of Belgian star Dimitri Vandenberg. But I think I have to agree with, right now, the runaway leader in the poll, Johnny Clayton. I mean, Clayton was just absolutely brilliant. And not that Gerwyn Price wasn't good, but Gerwyn Price, there were just a few moments over the course of the weekend where he showed a little nerve. You know, he missed 3 in hand and double in crucial times. If Wales came back, Johnny Clayton was going to hit first dart. And if Johnny Clayton missed 2 with the hand, he was hitting third dart. I just think Johnny Clayton had just an absolute brilliant tournament. And that's a big reason why they won the title. Some that aren't nominated, I mean, obviously our guest you just heard from, Benjamin Drew Royce. I'm not going to pretend like I had ever seen him play before, but he carried the Danish team, even though one of the 2 players, the other one, Vladimir Anderson's a tour card holder. And I don't mean that to insult Vladimir Anderson. I mean that just how good Royce was, throwing at one point 3 consecutive 180s, nearly not putting a dart wrong in their first match. And that's why they beat Austria. That's why they managed to get out of the group and into the last 16. I'm not going to make him MVP for the tournament because they lost in the last 16, but he was absolutely just brilliant at times, and those were the right times for them to win that group. And I'll mention just one more player, another one. I mean, they didn't win a match. They barely managed to win a leg, but he only was averaging 60 points more than his compatriot, and that was the Bahraini Basim Mahmoud, averaging 99 in his second match, averaging a bit lower in the first one, but his compatriot just couldn't take to the stage, it seemed. I'm sure he's a much, much better player than that, but playing in front of 3,000 fans and the nerve of representing your country got to him, and his partner was averaging under 40, but Mahmoud averaged north of 100. To do that on debut in the World Cup in your first match on a televised stage outside of your country, and to do it in front of those 3,000 fans, and to give your country a fighting chance. Yes, it seemed like they were not going to really have a chance to win that match, but they hit a couple times and they won a couple legs in their second match, and they made Latvia not necessarily sweat it at one point early in that match when it was 1-1 and Bahrain had a chance to go 2-1 up and maybe mean the group wasn't over. But to make Latvia actually have to up their game and make sure they did enough to top the group, all on Mahmoud. I thought that was just a really impressive and deserves a shout out. But back to where we started, who's the MVP? It has to be Johnny Clayton. Wales, they might have won the title even without him. Gerwyn Price is pretty darn good, but Johnny Clayton, I thought, was just impeccable all weekend, and Wales are the champions as a result.
Yeah, some good picks there, and we should mention as well, it was a record-breaking weekend. We saw the record average in a pairs game go. That was courtesy of the two Christoph Kachuk and Christoph Ratajski, averaging 118.10 in their second group game, the win against Lithuania. And I put a tweet out as well asking for people to send in their nominees for MVP. We had Oscar Lukasiak, who made it onto the poll. You had the two Christophs because of that performance. Massimo Dante from Italy, the Italians winning their first game in the World Cup. We also saw a first win for the Czech Republic as well. That was good to see. We had Karol Sedlacek on the show a couple of weeks ago. They were looking to get that first win, hidden Adam Gavlas. But looking at the four that we have got on the poll, you mentioned how the poll's going at the moment, and you've been voting in your droves as well. We've had more than 1,200 votes so far, which I think might even be a record for our question of the week, probably up there with the time that 99.9% of you voted that Bo Greaves is a world champion. But I'll start with Mac Elkin for this one, and Damon Hetter's been tweeting in saying, what did he contribute? Mac replied, about €80 a day to your food fund, and Damon's response to that was that it's been a cheap week for you. But in all seriousness, Mac's in there because of what he brought to the table. He brought the Belgian team together Thursday night. Dimitri and Kim, they were giving each other the silent treatment. Friday morning, Mac put them in a room together. They shook hands. They agreed to put their personal problems to one side for the rest of the tournament. And if we had a most entertaining team award, it would have to go to Belgium, because they had the two last leg deciders, the wins against Netherlands and Australia, and then another last leg decider. It was one too many in the end against Wales in that semi-final, and they were just 59 points away from knocking out the eventual champions in that last leg. But Mac, you say the manager, Dimitri, is a former manager of Kim. He deserves a nod for helping provide us, the fans, with all that entertainment from the Belgians over the weekend, because I don't think they would have got that far if they carried on not talking to each other. And the other nominees, Oscar Lukasiak, one of many debutants in this year's World Cup, he certainly impressed. And I've got to give another nod to another dart statistician on Twitter, Premium Dart Data, did a tremendous job over the whole week. The tweets breaking down each player's individual average, the doubles, scoring. Do go and give them a follow as well. But Oscar's stats from the weekend, first game debut, fair to say that the nerves might have got to him. 72 average. They still won that game against Switzerland, but second game later on that day, settled down, 100 average himself, and that helped them beat Italy in the last leg decider to get through the group stage. And the last 16 averaged 93 in that one against Canada to win that one, and 88 against Wales, 63% on the doubles. He actually hit the double in all 5 legs that Sweden won in that 8-5 defeat. He was the one that got it back to 5-5. And as far as TV debuts go, he definitely deserves a mention, as does Gary Anderson. He did a lot of the carrying for Scotland in that run to the final. Peter came good towards the end of that semi-final against Germany, but it was Gary who did a lot of the lifting. But like you, I think the MVP usually goes to someone from the winning team, and for me as well, it's got to be Johnny Clayton. His averages over the 2 days that he played, 102, 96, 95, 103. That is 2021 ferret levels right there, and over 50% on the doubles for the whole weekend. There was a couple of games in there when he was 86%, 80%. Price said at the end, Johnny was the one to pick that trophy up. He won it for us, and you can't say any more than that. Johnny Clayton, World Cup MVP.